Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video, I will show you how to configure your computer to drive, equalize, mix and route audio to the radio and back from the radio using any microphone or headset and your PC speakers or headphones, including wireless units like this one I'm using right now. Hello everyone, if this is your first time watching, my name is Paulo, call sign Victor Alpha 3 Hotel Delta Lima. Please consider hitting the subscribe button. That is telling me that you like what I'm doing and encourage me to continue creating content for you. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use any standard computer headset or microphone with your radio, how to listen to the radio on the computer speakers, use the radio hands-free and PTT via CAT, digital voice, or external foot switch. Record and playback CQ calls, that is great for contests. Record and playback audio from the radio, great for letting others hear how they sound. And the most important of all, you can do all this with any radio, any computer, and any microphone. We're going to break down this video in 4 parts. First, where to find and configure the sound settings in Windows 10. Second, how to configure Voicemeeter. It's a free desktop mixer. In a separate video, I will show how to do the same things in Linux. Discuss PTT options available. And the last part will be to do a live test with the radios, so you can see how all this works together.
Alright folks, in this first part of the video, we are going to see how we configure the sound settings in Windows. To make this easier, we need to create a shortcut in our desktop, which I have in here. I'm going to show you how to create that shortcut that will allow us to access every time that we need very quickly to the sound settings. Why we need this shortcut? Because you cannot change the sound settings from here. If you click the speaker here on the bar, you see there is very limited where you can access. Those are not the settings that you need to configure. Even if you have any other options like this one coming from Dell Audio, from my computer, this is not the place that you need to modify your settings, so this is not good. I'm going to show you how to create this shortcut now. So we go to the Windows icon, type control panel. We have it right in there. We open the control panel. In the control panel, we're going to find this option. One of the last one is called sound. You right click into this one and you click create shortcut. Create shortcut is going to ask you, it's going to tell you that it's going to place a shortcut in your desktop. This is what you want, so you don't have to come back again here. You say yes, it's going to do it. So I'm going to close this, and you see I have another one here. I have 2 shortcuts now because I have one before. So I'm going to just delete the new one. And from this shortcut, we're going to access the audio settings that we need to configure. So to do that, I'm going to double click on this icon, and I'm going to zoom in into this window so you can see it better. Right, now it's big enough. Let's take a look at the first thing that you need to do. Click on the Sounds tab and change your sound scheme from wherever you have to no sounds and hit apply. This is the first thing that you need to do, and the reason of that is because when you have the audio of your computer connected to your radio, you don't want to transmit or activate the Vox in case that you have the Vox on in your radio when there is a sound in your computer because you click something or because you got a pop-up notification from a message, a friend or somebody send you a message, or you got an email. You don't want those sounds to go into your radio. So select sound scheme, no sounds, hit apply and hit OK. The next steps is going into playback and disable the devices that you don't plan to use. Like, for example, the digital display audio, I don't plan to use this, so I right click and hit disable. This other one here I'm not planning to use, right click, hit disable. So you can see now they have those black arrows pointing down. That is an indication that those two playback devices are not enabled. Why we do that? Because when we go into our software and we want to configure our software, we don't want to see a lot of items in the list of items to configure that we don't plan to use. We want to just see on those lists the things that we want to use. We do the same thing in recording. I don't want to use the microphone on the webcams. I never use the microphone on the webcam, so I use this microphone on my headset for my recordings or whatever I need to do. So same thing, right click and hit disable. In this case, I don't have the option because it's already disabled. This is the microphone that I am using now, this Logitech USB microphone. You can see here is recording. Then this is my wireless headset microphone that I was using before, and I'm going to show you then later how to use. And then, for example, this is an analog microphone that you can plug in the front of your computer. For example, I never plan to use this, so I'm going to right click, I'm going to say disable. I am not interested to see this option in my configuration settings. Once you do all that, you are done with this first part of the configuration, and you can click OK. Next, I'm going to show you how to add and configure a device. As you can see here in the sound settings, I have already my FT-991A configured, and I'm going to add another device, and I'm going to show you how to configure to look exactly like this. As I mentioned before, we could do this with a new radio like the FT-991A, or we can use any radio actually. If we have an audio interface like the one that I'm showing now on the screen. This particular one is one I built myself, but you can purchase signaling or any of those interfaces and use for the same purpose. So the important thing is this one, it has a USB audio adapter that you can see in here, and it has two isolation transformers. Those helps to separate the radio from the computer signals and prevent interference. You can see there are three cables going into the radio, and one is for your microphone, the other is for your speaker, and the third one, in this case here, I have for the push to talk, because I have a couple of transistors that do the push to talk for me. But this is entirely optional. You could do this without the push to talk transistors. So now I'm going to plug this interface into the computer and show how to configure the interface to use later for our project. Now we have the interface plugged into the computer. Let's take a look how we can configure this new interface, USB interface that we added properly in the sound settings. Now we have plugged the USB audio interface to use with any radio. But before I show how to configure that, let me first cover some basic concepts. As you can see here, I already had set up the FT-991A, and the audio to radio is in your playback. So in the playback tab, you will find the device that it will send the audio to the radio. And you can see this is not the standard name for this device. The standard name for this device is USB audio codec. But in here you can see I renamed that. I'm going to show you that when we configure the new USB interface. Likewise, in the recording tab, you can see I have the FT-991 alpha audio from radio. In the recording tab, you will find the devices that are bringing the audio from your radios. Okay, so now let's configure the the new USB device that I plug. So you see the name here for the new USB device is speakers. And that when I will go to another program and try to configure that, that could be confusing because that could mean the speakers that are connected with my computer right now. So what we can do to prevent that is we can right click, go to properties, and change the name with whatever is more meaningful for you. In my case, I'm gonna use this to show you how we can use this cheap USB device with VHF, UHF radio. So I'm gonna call this one, I'm gonna call VHF, UHF audio to radio. And we're going to change the icon. If we want to, we can do that or not. But we can change the icon to something looks like a radio, right? We click OK. We change the name. Apply. OK. And we see here VHF, UHF, audio to radio. Similar to what I done before for the FT-991 alpha. We're going to do the same thing on the recording tab. If I scroll up, you can see the new device is here, the one I just plugged on the computer. I'm going to right click, properties, and in this case, this is going to be VHF, UHF from radio. I'm going to change the icon again, something that looks like a radio, click OK, click apply, click OK, and we have it. Now in this part of the video, I'm going to show you where to find the mixing software that we are going to be using and how to configure. So first you need to go to vb-audio.com and click on the Voicemeeter tab. This is the software that we are going to be using. There are 3 versions of Voicemeeter. This is the basic version. We are not going to use this one. And you have 2 options that you can use. This is Voicemeeter Banana, you can see here, is the version that I use that is enough for my needs. But you can also download the bigger version that offers more channels for inputs and outputs. For me, this is too much. I don't have that many inputs and outputs, so I use the Banana version. You can download the application. There are links here to download. It's a zip package or an exe. Probably the exe is easier. You click here, you download the package, and you install in your computer. I will not cover that. This is basic, and I will just show how to configure after it's installed in your computer. I recommend to start with Voicemeeter Banana because it has just enough the number of inputs and outputs that we need for this purpose. You can later upgrade to Voicemeeter Potato if that is better for you. But as you can see here on the screen, the first time that you open this application is overwhelming. The number of options, buttons, sliders, things that you can configure is really overwhelming. But we're going to go step by step and cover each part of the console. So first, let's understand what are the different parts of the console. The console has 3 physical inputs. This part are 3 physical inputs. This part are 2 virtual inputs for a total of 5 inputs that you can handle with the Banana version. Likewise, it has 5 outputs. The first 3 are 3 physical outputs, and the last 2 are two virtual outputs. This section here with the recording tape will allow you to record yourself, record others, and also playback, for example, CQ calls if you're doing contests. Now, for each one of the inputs, you can select what output you want to patch those. And if you remember, those are all the inputs. And by pressing the buttons in here, you can select where you want to patch those inputs. In the case, for example, of the microphone that I am using right now, I have selected to patch the microphone into the virtual outputs B1 and B2. What are B1 and B2? B1 and B2 I configure as my default sound and the default communications devices. So you can see here, the virtual ports are for my default sound and the default communication device. Those are the inputs and those are the outputs of the two virtual devices that Voicemeeter Banana creates for you. Something very important at this point is to configure your default devices. To do that, you open your sound settings with the shortcut that we created, and we scroll through the list in the Playback tab, and we select the Voicemeeter aux input, the VB Audio Voicemeeter aux VIO, as our default communications device. And we select the Voicemeeter input, VB Audio Voicemeeter VIO, as our default device. This is very important. The default device has a green check mark. The default communication device has like a handset. In the recording tab, we have to do exactly the same thing. For the Voicemeeter aux output, we configure that one as the default communications device, and the Voicemeeter output, VB Audio Voicemeeter VIO, as the default device. Those two are the B1 and B2 in Voicemeeter, are this one here. As you can see, I put the titles on the channels like I mentioned: default sound, default communications, for the input, for the outputs in this part, default sound, default communication. It's important that you have the right titles, so once you do the configuration and you put the titles in here, you don't need to think too much what is what. And again, you need to do the proper assignment of the device. And something to consider, the B1 and B2 inputs and B1 and B2 outputs are always the Voicemeeter VIO and Voicemeeter aux. They cannot be changed. So we covered the basics of the mixer, but what is extremely important is how you assign devices to the channel and how you put the names that you want to see on the channels to understand what is the function of each channel, the inputs or outputs, same thing. So for example, my first channel here is audio coming from the FT-991 alpha. And I want to show you how to change that or how to select that the first time. So if you remember, we just configured an external USB device for the VHF UHF radio, and now I want to use that one. Remember that we changed the name of that device to VHF UHF from radio, so we have it here. So this is much easier to find and remember that a USB PMP sound device, for example. So we're gonna pick this one, and now we have selected that input from the VHF UHF radio, but the title is wrong for the channel. How you change the title of the channel? You just click on, sorry, you right click on the title of the channel, and now I can edit here and I say this is from VHF, UHF, and hit enter. And we have configured the first channel for input. How we configure the channel for output? Likewise, we go here. The radio in my case is the H2, and I go here. You see here FT-991 alpha audio to radio. So now I want this channel to be my VHF UHF audio to radio. So I change it, and the name on the output channel is showing the all settings. So I right click and I'm gonna fix the name in here. I'm gonna say to VHF UHF. So by looking at the names in here, I know the purpose of the channel. Same here. One important thing to consider is doing this type of mixing through the computer. It will create some delays, some latency. And this is because, of course, audio needs to be digitally converted, processed, and then digitally converted back to analog before it goes into the radio. So because of that, it will be some delay, some latency. In my case, I found that it's around 250 milliseconds, and I can tolerate that. What you cannot do, though, is to monitor live. Monitoring live through this, it will confuse your brain because of the delay. Another caveat is each input or output can handle 3 different types of Windows drivers. They are for the same devices, but they are different types. So you have the WDM, KS, and MME. What I found in my particular case, that choosing for the input the WDM type of drivers and choosing for the output the MME type of drivers, the delay is minimal, and sometimes you can have some distortion if you use the same driver for the input and output. So I want to make a note of that because that is a very important caveat. So before we jump into the last part of the video, in this part, this is what we achieved so far. We have our computer that is running Voicemeeter, and in our computer we can use the speaker connected to the computer to listen to the radio audio, or we can listen through the headset, and we can use the microphone of the headset or an external microphone like this one to send audio via USB to the radio. And in this case, we know that we don't need to have a radio with a USB port to do that. I showed you earlier. We're going to do a test with a VHF, UHF handy-talkie, and you will see how that works without any internal USB audio on the radio. So now, how we can put the radio in transmit mode when we are using the microphone or the headset from our computer and we don't have any physical push-to-talk button on the computer. There are a few ways to do that, and I'm gonna show you the options. So what are the options that we have for push-to-talk to put the radio into transmission mode? So the first option is do that via the cat commands. So that is very simple. It could be achieved via 2 ways. One way is using a keyboard key program in your login software. In my case, I am using Log for All Men. I highly recommend that login software. I can program any key on my keyboard that I want to use to put the radio into transmission mode. And in my case, I use the tilde, which is close to the number 1 on my keyboard. The other option, which I use too, is using a mouse key and an auto hotkey script. I use the middle or the wheel mouse key to put the radio into transmission mode. And I wrote an auto hotkey script, which is available on my website. And there is a video about that in my channel that you can look for. The video is, I'm going to put the link of the video on below. Other option is to PTT via an external switch connected directly to the radio. That could be anything. The radio, the majority of the radios, you can connect any external switch and put the radio into transmission mode, like a foot switch or things like that. You can also use the microphone that has been provided with your radio to do the PTT, pushing the switch on that microphone. In the case, for example, of the FT-991 Alpha, when you set up the single sideband AM, FM in the menu to rear to use the USB audio, you can still use the PTT button from your microphone, but no audio will be captured from the microphone. And the last option is the PTT via Vox command or digital Vox when you turn that in your radio. And I am saying digital Vox because in the case of the ICOM 7300 or the Jesus with the built-in USB audio, you need to switch Vox to use digital Vox to work for this purpose. All right, in this test, we are going to transmit with the USB adapter that I showed you at the beginning that is connected to this Baofeng radio VHF, UHF that I'm showing here on the screen. And to receive and to see how everything works, we are going to receive the signal using the Yesu FT-991 Alpha. So the audio that you're going to hear is going to be the audio coming not from the microphone, but coming from the Yesu and transmitted by the Baofeng radio. So in order to do that, I'm going to mute my microphone now for the recording. Radio, hello. This is Victor Alpha 3 Hotel Delta Lima, Victor Alpha 3 Hotel Delta Lima, testing 1, Victor Alpha 3 Hotel Delta Lima, testing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
All right, everyone. Before we jump now into testing with the Yesu FT-991 Alpha, I wanted to show you where you can find information about this project, this experiment. If you go to my website, va3hdl.com, and you scroll in projects menu, you scroll to Voicemeeter, you will find here information about this project and links to the software. And also, of course, I want to give a shout out to Rodrigo, Papa Yankee 2, Romeo Alpha Foxtrot, who has the original idea of using Voicemeeter with the FT-991A. I put a link to his website in there so you can get more information. And this is not supposed to be a tutorial for Voicemeeter Banana. So if you need more information about Voicemeeter, please take a look at this link that I have in here. You will learn all the secrets about the Voicemeeter. And finally, the most important part that you can find on this page are all the settings that I changed on the FT-991A to use the USB audio built in on the radio for the computer audio coming from the microphone, like I showed you before, or this headset, for example. And now, in the next clip, I'm going to show you how I am using this headset with the radio.
Delta Lima, slow it down phonetically.
Sure. Good afternoon. This is Victor Alpha 3 Hotel Delta Lima. Over.
Victor Alpha 3 Hotel Delta Lima. Pablo and Aurora, right?
QSL, Pablo in Aurora. How you doing? Dave, you are 5454 in Ontario.
Okay, on the 5-4, you're a solid 5-9 here at Lake Arrowhead State Park, K3022.
All right, thank you very much for the new park, and good luck with your activation, my friend 7-3. Right, folks, this is the end of the video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. But for more articles and information, please make sure to check my website, www.va3hdl.com. And if you reach to this point, please like and subscribe. That is telling me you enjoy what I'm doing and encourage me to continue creating content for you. Thanks for watching.